Okay, we on? Okay, we will call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, December 28th, 2021. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Any minutes or reports received and filed? Commissioner Committee Liaison Reports, upcoming meetings.
A bunch of little miscellaneous meetings, but nothing,
Yes, just,
so, yep. That's it.
Jill and I are going to meet with our lobbyist tomorrow and to go over some of the pre-filed bills. On the 31st, I think it's the 31st. Is that, Friday the 31st, one of our Cole County residents, citizens, is going to celebrate a 100-year birthday. But I think Ralph Job is going to handle that for us.
and we
Or-
signed a proclamation.
Okay.
I asked him if we needed to, if he would like for us to come present it. He said at her age, no, she wouldn't really understand it, so.
Well, happy
but we
birthday
are
to-
presenting her with the proclamation.
Happy birthday to Josephine on Friday for 100 years old.
Yep,
Yep, congratulations.
yep. Okay, and I have nothing. Yay. Okay, we are going to do appointments by commission, reappointment of Gary Bimboom to the Cole County Planning Commission. You want to do them singly, or you want me to just do them all and we'll approve them all?
And just go ahead and,
Okay, reappointment of Jamie Pearson to Cole County Parks Committee, reappointment of Jason Gerling to Public Works Traffic and Safety Advisory Board, reappointment of Don Hillis to Public Works Road and Bridge Advisory Board, reappointment of Greg Bowman to Public Works Road and Bridge Advisory Board, and reappointment of Bruce Bax to Public Works Traffic and Safety Advisory Board.
good.
I have a motion to approve the reappointments as listed and as read by the presiding commissioner.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, do we have any commission comments? Bids and contracts. Discussion of painting quote for prosecutor's office.
I met with Extreme Painting and Wallpaper regarding painting the prosecutor's office, and he provided me with a quote totaling $21,500. That amount would include removing the wallpaper and painting the whole third floor minus the auditor's office. So today I just put it on the agenda to discuss and see if you guys wanted to move forward or what you guys wanted to do.
We haven't had any other bids either.
No, I have not heard back from the others that I've called.
Did we have a deadline for bids, or?
I called him and left a message, and I haven't heard back from him. He was the first one and the only one that I've talked to.
That seems high, but there's a lot of offices there. I've taken wallpaper off before. That's depending on how well it's put on there, that's a,
Jessica, is that the third floor and fourth floor?
The mezzanine, yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
that's both. What,
And this person has done the work here before. He's actually done the work down here in lots of places.
That's the same one that did this.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, it is what it is. We don't have any other options at this
Yeah.
point. We've reached out to several other people, and I don't know anybody else to talk to. I mean, when you have to beg them to come to do some of the work, and then, I mean, you can't even get bids from them right now, so I think let's get it done. Let's proceed with it, because we've got everything else lined up to get done up there.
I just have to, I've met with the mover, but he needed this timeline before he could give us a quote, so that'll be my next step.
Okay, so are you gonna basically be the contractor then running all this, or are we gonna have to
I
have?
did not plan to be, no.
Okay, so welcome back, Greg.
My plan was to set up a meeting with,
Well, this will be the final after we do the duct work, or well, will carpet be the,
No, carpet be last.
yeah.
we kind of talked about doing it all. The painting on wallpaper and the movers all there and the carpet all at the same time.
So they
That
move
way
the
the
stuff
movers
out.
don't have to do it
Twice.
twice.
Paint it, then the floors,
Okay.
and
My plan was to set up a meeting with all three of them to get on the same page of a game plan of what they're gonna do.
okay,
Let me know what it is.
there we go.
Okay.
So, I think just let's roll with it. So
I do have a quote if you guys wanna sign it.
make a motion to sign the agreement with Extreme Painting and Wallpaper.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks, Jessica.
Renewal 1 of inmate medical services.
This is the first renewal with Advanced Correctional Healthcare for the Sheriff's Department. They did propose a 3% increase this year, making the total $213,510.79. The sheriff is okay with the increase, and today I'm just needing a signature on the renewal.
You're okay with them?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
More importantly, my staff is, so, and that's what really matters.
yeah.
You do have the contract you said?
I do, yep.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Yep.
Make a motion to sign the contract renewal with medical services with Advanced Correctional.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Trade your paper.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Unfinished business, do we want to do the health department freezer under that?
I think y'all got the okays with this, just like if we're fixing HVAC or something, so,
We'll get the fire order.
yeah. good.
Yeah,
This is the freezer,
Refrigerator.
the refrigerator.
Refrigerator,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Were we, under unfinished business, did we come to a conclusion on the ARPA advisory committee?
I would be fine with doing 9 if we want to do, we need to get that probably after the first of the year, so I think with the one Jeff,
Yeah, I think we had a couple of them that we'd like to see on
Yeah.
there,
What
so then,
what if we did this? What if we asked staff to, we do have a list of 9 now, I think we
Uh-huh.
agreed on. What if we had the staff contact those 9 to see if they're still on there? We don't want to appoint somebody who's changed their mind. And if they have, want to be on there, then next meeting we can officially appoint them.
I'll get with you on
Perfect.
mine. I thought I
Okay.
had 8.
yeah, we had,
I missed it.
I think we still need 9, so we had another we were gonna, okay. So we're okay with moving ahead in the freezer?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. New business accounts payable review.
I do have accounts payable today. I asked for approval pending review of a few utilities for the last one of the year.
Motion to approve accounts payable pending review.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion for renewing COVID pay for 2022.
Okay, as you know, you guys, we've continued the COVID pay without the federal backing. The federal government stopped that as of what date? I forget.
3/31/21.
Of this year. So we're just here asking. We do have, the stipulations have been changing. Even last night, the changing from the quarantining back to 5 days instead of, Christie could tell you.
And I think
about that.
masking then for another 5.
Yeah. It's so changing, and now we got home testing going to happen. In my book, I think it's time to step back, get out of this, because it's going to be so hard to verify, even if an employee has that, if they're home testing too. So my recommendation is to stop the COVID time. Sheila can speak to it too if you want.
My recommendation would be that if you consider continuing it, that we require a physician's or health department test instead of the home test. The home
Yeah.
tests are gonna be easy to get a hold of, but in my mind, and I could be wrong, in my mind, Sally could pass it to Sue, to Bob, to Bill, without verifying that it is a singular test applicable to them. So I think that there are some good aspects to the program. There are a lot of people that have not taken advantage of the 80 hours that potentially could still be infected. But I think with the reduced quarantine period and now the home test added, we have the potential for more discrepancy, less validation, those factors.
Yeah, yeah, they've been talking a lot about the home tests, and that's what the president says, we need to have more of those, but I think they said it's like 85% positive, but they're still saying, Dr. Fauci still says that the doctors test
And
are-
fewer and fewer doctors are wanting to be involved, I understand that, and fewer health
Yeah.
departments are wanting to be involved because of just the load involved in doing that. But if we're giving away 80 hours of pay or up to 80 hours of pay, I would think that there would be a little bit of inconvenience to an employee that wants to claim that benefit.
Did we require it the last time? We were requiring it before.
We have required
Okay.
documentation.
I'm fine leaving it the same as long as we still require the physician test, not a at-home test. But do we
And
need
the
to scale it
pharmacies are
back
only
to
doing the at-home.
the new?
The ones that are,
now they are?
that's my understanding. Is that right, Christine?
I think it's probably about the same test, but at least then you know that someone saw them and someone administered it. When if they're doing it at home, you don't know if they could be testing the dog. We don't know. Like the schools
But-
were not honoring the home test for kids that were trying to get out of quarantine and come back because you just don't know. Now, some of them, the nurses would do it, they would, administer it, but it is probably the same test.
I don't like the pharmacy test or the home test. I think that, I agree with what you're saying. If you're gonna do it, if they wanna take advantage
PCR.
of this, they need to do a PCR through a physician.
I would
Yeah.
agree.
But then also the 80 hours, I think, is extreme at this point, since,
Well, that's what I wanted to visit more about was they've scaled it back to 5 days now. So,
5 days from symptom onset.
If you're asymptomatic.
Well, and if someone, I'm sorry, Joe, if we had a household where it went from one person to another, the 80 might be appropriate, but I think 40 per person would be more reasonable than 80 at this point. I think the 80 is excessive. It's overly generous, in my opinion.
I would be okay with leaving it at 40, but they have to have a doctor's test in order to qualify.
80 days?
No,
80
No,
hours,
Hours,
okay.
so
Yes.
basically 2 weeks is what we were.
But
Yes.
it's
So
been
this
a-
would be 1 week,
and again, if you haven't used it before.
Right.
yeah.
and this is just for the individual, not their kids or,
We've had the other family members that, up to this point, they had 80 hours total to use for other family members, children, if they were quarantined because other family members were positive or whatever, but. And the paperwork is cumbersome when nobody furnishes the paperwork. We've had to give a lot of grace in trying to get people to comply after they've requested that pay.
I think they need to have a doctor's, and otherwise they really don't qualify.
so if they have it and then their kid gets it, did we require them to have a doctor or physician's test for the kid as well?
They-
Or you just
they
had
sign
2
off
weeks
on
for
it.
them?
They sign off on a piece of paper that says they. By law.
You only got 8 hours total.
Total.
That's right.
Right. But, I don't know.
Without the federal government backing this as a FFCRA anymore, it's very hard for us to police that because we don't have their requirements. All we're asking them to do is sign a piece of paper that says they're,
No,
and we ask for their test results too.
But don't get it in all cases.
A lot of cases we don't get.
then I wouldn't
But it's
I
after
wouldn't
the
pay them
fact.
40 hours.
It's usually after the fact,
Yeah.
because they're at home sick and they can't get it to us for one reason or another. So we count the clock on the 8th. So it's very hard.
We could either discontinue it, we could lower it to 40 hours. Um,
You take it away, though, you're gonna encourage people to come to work sick.
Yeah,
That's my concern.
I think it's fair to continue it. If somebody's just now getting it, it's not their fault, you know, maybe they had been lucky or safer or whatever for an amount of time, so I don't wanna punish them just for now getting it, but at the same time, we are getting down to where the recommendation is for 5 days. I didn't really see what those new recommendations were, though. Is that 5 days after being asymptomatic? Or is it 5 days from when you had sniffles?
We were talking about a little bit this morning, it sounds like 5 days from symptom onset, but then if you return to work, it's with 5 days with the mask. And then the quarantine, instead of 14 days, it's now 5, but then if you can't, or 10, I don't know, Jen and I were talking about it, but if you can't quarantine, then you're just supposed to go back to work anyway. It really
Okay.
shortened everything.
I got it, this is Washington.
Okay, you come up to a table with a speaker, then we're gonna do this, so. Probably need to have everybody, 'cause I don't think you can hear very good from the gallery.
Okay.
That's why Larry sits back there.
Federal health officials on Monday shortened the recommended time Americans infected with coronavirus should isolate from 10 days to 5 if they are asymptomatic. A decision they said was driven by a growing body of research about when people are most infectious. And I think I was hearing on the radio this morning, it's like 2 days prior to symptoms and then 2 or 3 days after the onset. But anyway, they said, this is what they said, updated guidance from the CDC. Control, prevention, whatever, they just, the rest of it.
But it's if you're asymptomatic at that 5 days, because on the CDC it says, you know, if you test positive, you should isolate for 5 days, and if you're asymptomatic at that time, you may leave isolation and go back.
After 5 days.
Right.
At day 5.
So at day 5, if your symptoms are better, then you can go back to work. But if you're still sick, you should stay.
Most of the people I know would rather come back to work anyway.
Right.
After 5 days being stuck at home. Have we had a problem with people taking advantage of it or anything? I mean, how many have we had in the last month that have used it?
Probably 15 total in the last month.
Really?
have they,
Different varies, maybe 1 day, 2 day, 3 day until they find out, or maybe the whole 10 days.
have they brought doctors?
I'd say maybe half.
I'd be good for 40 hours, but they have to provide a doctor's note or we don't pay it.
Sheriff, you mentioned PCR test, and that's code for the real good test
Through a physician.
through a physician or a physician's office, I guess. So what if we amended our policy to require PCR tests and the max is 40 hours?
Do we still do the PCR test?
We don't do those at Hillsborough.
Okay.
We never have. Doctors get to the doctor's office.
How hard is that for people to get those now, do you know?
I don't know what their supply is. I know a lot of them move to antigen tests because they're quicker, but they also have rapid PCRs too, so.
We give PCR tests are available.
Okay. I just know they were talking about the testing, and I guess in some places there's long lines and tough to get, so.
We have them for the jail, our nurses, through the doctors.
Okay.
And the
And I'm-
40
I'm fine with that
Yeah.
and scaling back a little bit, but at the same time, if somebody has issues, I think that we can look at it case by case. I mean, if their doctor says, look, he's still sick, you don't want him coming into work, stay away. I think they can, I'd be fine with it if they came to me and talked to me about it, but.
But the standard would be a PCR test and 40 hours.
Yeah.
And the
I
40
guess-
is for those that have not exhausted that.
Yes.
Yes,
that
right.
Yes,
before.
yes,
Correct.
yes,
It's a
yes.
one-time
If
deal.
you're desperate, commit a crime, go to jail, and the sheriff will give you the test.
No, don't do that. Stay out of my jail.
Yes, I like that.
Unless you want a job, then yes, we'll take it.
You want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that the COVID pay policy for 2022 be amended to read a required PCR test and limited to 40 hours, cumulative 40 hours.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll just add then, if I don't have that information at timesheet time, they will have to use their sick time. If they come up with that information, they will get that time given back.
Yes.
Right, and they will be advised by you of the consequences
Yeah.
of not getting the PCR test in here.
I mean, I'm gonna take their sick until I have it.
Right.
So, and if you could send something out like that to us, and then we'll push it out to our staff.
So that is
People need to
just the
know in front of
employee, not the
me
kids?
PCR test.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't know, Jeff, I need that answered though. Is this just for the employee, or if they have to take off because their kid has tested positive? We can basically make our own rules because we're not under the federal guidelines any longer. So,
To me, it's really intended for our employees, but I don't have kids, so yeah. I know it can be hard.
It's a one-time use thing, so
Yeah.
they can either be for themselves or
Yeah.
their kids, so I don't know.
Makes it easier.
Then they're gonna have to use their own sick leave on one or the other. Chances are they're gonna get it too if they're at home with the kid.
Yeah.
We had been renewing it every 30 days. Are we gonna do this at a 30-day chunk at a time and do a look once a month? Or are you gonna do 90 days, or how are we
We
doing?
could do 60 day, I think, but it keeps changing. It's like,
That's the
as
whole thing.
Christie said, it was 14 days, and it was 10 days. Now we're down to 5 days,
All
so,
right, that's the second question. The first question is, are we doing it for kids or for the individual themselves?
I think we'd do it for the kids at home. You know, if a working mother has a child tested positive, can't go to school, she hasn't tested positive yet, I think we'd be cutting too fine a line if we didn't let her. I'm sorry?
She'd be a contact and need a quarantine at that point.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
But it's still just a
Unless you don't like your
one-time,
kids that much,
it's
you-
still just a one-time
Go to
only
your room.
use.
Boarding.
So
but we
if,
still need a
if you
PCR
choose-
test on the
yeah.
kid?
yeah, we'd still need the
I
PCR
think so.
on the person who has it, and let's do it for 60 days and
Yeah.
revisit. Or do you tie it to a pay period as opposed to
These are okay by the month.
Okay.
If you guys-
and then as
So-
things change,
through the end
things
of,
change, Christie can let us know.
what, this is effective through February 28. How's that?
That'll work.
Okay.
But it's effective until we terminate it.
Well, I'd rather keep a deadline date on there because.
We
like
can,
you
we
say,
can look
things
at it
that
every
keep
60
changing.
days, and then
Right.
we can decide if we want to change it that way. If we miss it a week or something, it's not going to affect anything, but, okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
60 days, make sure we get on the agenda again.
You made a vote, did we vote on that? I can't even
If so, well, I'll restate the
Okay.
motion. The COVID pay policy for 2022 shall require a PCR test limited to 40 hours cumulative, subject to a termination on 2/28/22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Discussion approval of premium pay policy.
You all have the policy draft that I furnished last week prior to going on Christmas break. I've not furnished one to Jeff yet until we finalize. There's few details in there on amounts and confirming that we put part-time back in, and then the forms that I submitted with it.
So this is what you gave me, the hard copy last week and emailed to us, right?
Yes. Yeah, the one with the yellow lines on it.
The only problem I had was limiting it to $40 gross and $20 gross for the part-timers. I still think we should be able to go up to, do it at the $2.50 per hour and, we're $2.50 per hour and $1.25 per hour. And they're still eligible. If they work that much, they work their 40 hours and they're still eligible for it. So, that was the only part I didn't care about. Because this was saying you're only gonna get $40 if you work 8 hours in a week, well, 16 hours in a pay period, or if you work 80 hours in a pay period.
Do you have an average of what your part-time people work, just off the cuff?
It depends on the position. They can go anywhere from 12 hours to 24 hours.
Per week,
Yeah.
roughly, usually?
Mhm.
Okay.
So that was my only hang up on it.
It
I understand what y'all were going at, but
And I hate to speak for Eric, he's not here right now. I know he had a concern because he does have people that will just come in for cover for like an 8-hour period or something. So I know he was concerned, and that's why he and I don't know if y'all noticed, we were talking, I said, 8 hours then is fine, right? He said, yeah, I think 8 hours is a good base, saying you gotta work at a minimum of 8 hours on a part-time basis for you all to go for any of the,
Well,
I think is what he said.
and we took your initial conversation, Sheriff, in where you said, if nothing else, pay them $1 an hour to make sure
Yeah.
that they understand. So that's where we came up with the 40 and 20. Not that it's a lot, but $40 in a 2-week period is at least including them in the batch.
Something's better than nothing. And I can't do without my part-timer, so thank you
No.
for considering.
I- Clarify that a little bit. My part-timer works 20 hours every week,
Then you're eligible.
but the pay is limited for part-time to how much?
they would get $40 if it's the group 1A part-time.
If they-
Whereas if theirs is a group 1A part-time and he worked 8 hours, he'd still get the $40. They both get $40, the way I understand it.
Whether you work 8 hours or 20 hours.
It's
Yeah.
a lump sum per pay
16 per pay period, so average 8 hours per week. So you're working 40 hours and getting $40. Then they're gonna work 8 hours and get, 16 hours and get $40. So. What?
Was part of the
It's about 2,000.
logic behind this was to simplify the payroll process?
Yes. Because if it's a lump sum per pay period, and I don't want to step on Debbie's conversation, if it's a lump sum per pay period, it takes half the time to say, yes, you qualified, yes, you qualified, yes, you qualified, than to take that batch and say, okay, these are all the people that qualified, and here's who's part-time, and this is how many hours, and this we have to calculate down to a per hour. So it was for ease of calculation on top of payroll, because we're not doing it delayed after the pay period, we're doing it in conjunction with the pay period.
Right. I think the the time difference is more than half. In other words, the simplification of it at a flat number is extremely easier for payroll. Not half as half as hard. It's probably 1/10 as hard because you're in or out. I think for ease of administration, I'd go with the policy as drafted.
Yeah, I think, originally, we weren't even including part-time, so we modified that after the sheriff and after Eric had brought it to our attention, but
It's not gonna be that hard to figure out who needs to get what amount. We got computers that do this stuff for us, so.
No, you don't talk to the computer and say, do it for me,
Sure you
computer.
do.
No, you
Who
don't.
do
You
you-
have to punch it in, you have to
Yeah.
look it up.
Who do you think programs the computers to tell them what to think to figure stuff?
Jeff,
That's
you don't.
exactly what it
the-
does.
The payroll folks cannot sit there and say, hey, computer, give Joe 2 hours, give Mary, they have to sit there and where's Joe?
No, they're
What-
gonna say, this person qualifies, work 16 hours, you're gonna get $2.50 an hour. Now they're gonna say, well, they worked 16 hours, we're gonna have to double check, was it in the pay period? Was it the
Okay.
rollover pay period? Well, okay, you get $40, and we're gonna punish the people that are in here working 40 hours in that week and only giving them the same as somebody that works for 8 hours. So I'd be telling LV, look, I'm just gonna work Monday, get my 8 hours in each week and take my $40 extra and call it a day.
Nobody's being punished. Some are being
Yeah, they are.
rewarded. No,
Yes, they
no
are.
one is being
And it's
punished.
because finance almost doesn't wanna do it.
No
That's where
one,
it's running into a problem at. It's not that hard to do. It's a little extra work.
no one is being punished.
They are too.
Some employees are being rewarded more than others. We're not taking anything away from anybody. We're only adding different amounts to different people. And
Same thing.
I'm calling for the question on the motion to accept the policy as drafted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hell no.
So Jeff, I'll get you a copy.
Okay. The only other thing I've got is the Carnegie Building project, but then it's the parking lot retaining wall, and we're gonna postpone that until next week when it's not rainy. Might be colder than you know what, but
Can we back up a second?
Yes.
You all approved the policy, then how is this going to be implemented?
You'll get the.
Everybody will get a copy of the policy and the forms that go with it, the requirements for getting people in. It's a 3-page policy, and then there's 2 pages of attachments to either qualify and certify that your people are eligible and, or an opt-out form. So as soon as I get this out of draft form and get it released, I'll release it to everybody, and then everybody will get started. And then if you have questions, you can ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What paycheck will people be able to see it?
So it's the same as the pay rate would change. It looks like January 9th. Pay period would start at January 9th.
So you won't see it till the January 20th paycheck, correct?
Actually, I think it's February, the first check in
February
February.
6th.
Yeah, it's the first check in February.
And it goes without saying that this does not apply to elected officials.
yes.
It does exclude elected officials. All exempt and non-exempt employees are in as long as they are salaried or hourly paid, not elected. And that as long as they were employed prior to 1/9, which is the implementation start date of the policy.
Okay. Anything else?
So they're not qualified after, if they get hired on January 10th?
Unless you all change that, the policy as written that was just adopted starts January 9th.
I thought it just started to pay January 9th. So they have to be hired before then. So anybody say the sheriff hires after January 10th to fill some of these empty positions are not gonna be qualified for it, even though they're
It-
coming in and,
My understanding was to get paid on January 9th for this, you had to be here on January 9th for this.
Correct, and this first round is only for 30 days.
Okay.
2 pay periods, and it says you have to be hired prior to 1/9 to be eligible for this first round.
So
The first
after-
2 checks.
So after 30 days, you'll change the date?
Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody I
Yeah,
hire will be
so,
eligible?
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so EMS and.
thank you.
Because we sign a lot of,
That clarified
we
it.
have a lot of,
That's
we
fine.
signed a bunch today. And, okay.
The EMS doesn't count.
If he's not here, you know, everything's
He's not
his,
here,
Speak for
so.
yourself.
it's
I'll
his fault
teach him to
today.
go to
Last time I
California.
talked to him, he said he wanted all his money to come to me. That's what,
And he's gonna take over animal control too.
and he's taking over animal control. I second that.
God, look at 9:30. Do we have anything else? Jeffrey?
No.
This is our last meeting of 2021, you know. Should we,
We should have had pie.
should have gotten the hats and
We can
the
go
horns.
I'm good with that.
We can- Okay.
Motion to stand in recess until 4:30.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, Chris. Oh, go ahead.